At Christmas dinner, they called me dramatic when I quietly mentioned feeling excluded from family decisions. So I calmly stood up, walked to my car, and returned with 3 moving boxes. I set them on the table and said 8 words that made everyone go silent. Since I'm dramatic, let me show you documentation. Inside were hospital records, legal papers, and bank statements proving that for 5 years, I'd been secretly managing our mother's dementia, paying her bills, and handling her medical care while the rest of the family lived their lives, oblivious. My name is Margaret Chen, I'm 72 years old, and that moment of being called dramatic became the moment I stopped protecting everyone from the truth. If you've ever been dismissed when you tried to speak up, or called emotional for having legitimate concerns, hit that like button right now and share your thoughts in the comments. When does being the responsible one become being the invisible one? I read every single comment. Let's hear your stories. December 2020. I was 69 years old, exhausted in ways I couldn't explain to anyone, and sitting at my brother Tommy's house for Christmas dinner. The pandemic had eased enough for small family gatherings, and Tommy had insisted on hosting. His house in Westport was large and comfortable, decorated tastefully by his wife Susan. My sister Linda was there with her husband Frank, my nephew Michael and his wife, and my niece Jessica with her boyfriend. Notably absent from the conversation was any mention of our mother, Dorothy, who was 91 and living alone in her house in West Hartford. I'd spent Christmas morning with her, helping her open gifts she'd forgotten I'd bought, making sure she ate breakfast, administering her medications. Then I'd driven an hour to Tommy's house, arriving exactly on time but feeling like I'd already worked a full day. Margaret. Finally. Linda said when I walked in, though I wasn't late. We were about to start without you. I set down the dish I'd brought and joined everyone in the living room. The conversation was light, cheerful. Michael talked about his new job. Jessica discussed wedding planning. Tommy and Frank debated sports. Susan managed the kitchen with easy competence. I sat on the couch, trying to engage, but my mind kept drifting back to Mom. Had I left enough meals prepared? Would she remember to take her evening medication? Had I locked the back door she kept forgetting about? Margaret, you're quiet, Susan observed. Everything okay? Just tired, I said. It's been a long morning. Long morning? Linda laughed. It's Christmas. What could possibly be stressful about Christmas morning? I could have told her. About finding Mom confused in her kitchen at 6 a.m., unsure why there was a tree in her living room. About the half hour it took to convince her to take her pills. About discovering she'd left the stove on overnight again. About the fear that lived permanently in my chest now, the fear that one day I'd arrive and find something terrible had happened. But I didn't say any of that. Because I'd learned over the past 5 years that talking about Mom's decline upset people. They didn't want to hear it. They wanted to believe she was fine, just a little forgetful, nothing serious. Just busy, I said instead. We moved to the dining room for dinner. Tommy had gone all out, prime rib and all the fixings. As we ate, the conversation turned to future plans. Susan and I are thinking about that river cruise through Europe next fall, Tommy said. The one through Germany and Austria. Should be incredible. That sounds amazing, Linda said. Frank and I were looking at something similar. Maybe we could coordinate. We should all go, Jessica suggested. A family trip. Wouldn't that be fun? Everyone enthusiastically agreed, already planning dates and discussing itineraries. I listened quietly, calculating in my head. Next fall was 9 months away. Could I arrange care for Mom for 2 weeks? Could I afford to hire someone full-time while I was gone? Could I even afford the trip itself given what I was spending on Mom's care? Margaret, you're in, right? Michael asked. It wouldn't be a family trip without you. I'll have to see, I said carefully. It depends on a few things. Like what? Linda asked. You're retired. You don't have anything tying you down. Well, there's Mom to consider. The table went quiet for a beat, then Tommy waved his hand. Mom's fine. She's independent. She doesn't need constant supervision. Something in me cracked a little. Actually, she does need supervision. Pretty constant supervision, in fact. Linda set down her fork. What are you talking about? I called her last week. She sounded completely normal. She's good at sounding normal on the phone. In person, it's different. She's declining, Linda. Significantly. Tommy's expression hardened. Margaret, don't be dramatic. Mom has some memory issues, that's normal at her age. But she's not declining the way you're suggesting. I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you what I see every day. Every day? Frank asked. You see her every day? Yes. Someone has to. The statement hung there. Susan looked uncomfortable. Jessica glanced at her father. Michael studied his plate. What does that mean? Tommy asked, his tone defensive. It means I check on her daily. I manage her medications, her meals, her bills, her medical appointments. I make sure she's safe. Someone has to, and it's been me for the past 5 years. Linda's voice rose. 5 years? And you're just now mentioning this? I've mentioned it. Multiple times. You've all chosen not to hear it. That's not fair, Tommy said. If Mom needed help, she would have said something. Or you should have told us it was serious. I did tell you. Last Thanksgiving, I said Mom was struggling. You said I was worrying too much. Last Easter, I said she needed more support. Linda said I was overreacting. Last summer, I said we needed to discuss her care plan. You said we'd talk about it later. It's always later with you too. Never now. If you're watching this and feeling something right now, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this with someone who's been the only one handling family responsibilities, and drop a comment below. Have you ever been called dramatic for telling the truth? What did you do? I want to know your story. Linda's face flushed. So what, you're saying we're bad children? That we've abandoned Mom? I'm saying you've been absent. There's a difference. That's incredibly unfair, Tommy said, his voice rising. I have a demanding job. I have responsibilities. I can't drop everything to babysit Mom every day. I'm not babysitting her. I'm caring for her. And I have a life too, Tommy. Or I did before this became my full-time unpaid job. Nobody asked you to do that, Linda said sharply. Nobody asked you to take over. If you're overwhelmed, that's your choice. The words hit like a slap. My choice. As if I'd chosen for Mom to develop dementia. As if I'd chosen to be the only one who noticed. As if I'd chosen to carry this alone while they lived their unburdened lives. "You're being dramatic," Linda continued. "You always do this. You create problems where there aren't any. Mom is fine. She's always been fine. You're just trying to make yourself seem important by manufacturing a crisis." Something shifted in me then. A clarity, cold and absolute. They weren't going to believe me. Not with words. Not with explanations. They needed evidence. Undeniable, concrete evidence. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "I need to get something from my car." "Margaret, don't storm off," Tommy said. "We're just having a conversation." "I'm not storming off. I'm getting documentation. Since you think I'm dramatic, let me show you exactly what I've been dealing with." I walked out to my car, parked in Tommy's driveway. In the trunk were 3 banker's boxes I'd prepared that morning, hoping I wouldn't need them but knowing I probably would. I'd learned to always be prepared with evidence. I carried all 3 boxes inside, setting them on Tommy's dining room table with a heavy thud. Everyone stared. "What is this?" Susan asked. "Documentation," I said calmly. "Of 5 years of managing Mom's care alone. Since I'm apparently being dramatic, let me show you what drama actually looks like." I opened the first box. These are Mom's medical records for the past 5 years. Hospital visits, doctor appointments, specialist consultations. All scheduled by me, attended by me, paid for by me when insurance didn't cover it. I pulled out a thick stack of papers. Here's the diagnosis from her neurologist, dated 3 years ago. Early stage Alzheimer's disease. Recommended, medication, regular monitoring, consideration of future care needs. I handed it to Tommy. "You're on her emergency contact list. You should have received a copy of this." "Did you?" His face paled as he read. I don't remember getting this." "That's because Mom was still capable of managing her own mail then. She probably filed it and forgot about it. I found it 6 months later when I was helping her organize paperwork." I pulled out more documents. Here's the medication schedule. 8 different prescriptions, some twice daily, some as needed. Here's the log I keep of her doses because she can't remember if she's taken them. Here's the list of side effects I monitor for. Linda was reading over Tommy's shoulder, her expression changing. I opened the second box. These are financial records. Mom's bills, her bank statements, her tax returns. All managed by me for the past 4 years because she started missing payments and couldn't balance her checkbook anymore. I pulled out highlighted bank statements. Here's where she wrote a check for $5,000 to a scam charity. I had to fight to get that money back. Here's where she paid the same electric bill 3 times in 1 month because she forgot she'd already paid it. Here's where she withdrew $2,000 in cash and lost it somewhere in her house. I still haven't found it. Frank leaned forward, studying the documents. "Jesus, Dorothy, why didn't you tell us?" "Because Mom didn't want you to know," I said. "She was embarrassed. She asked me not to tell you she was struggling. And I honored that request for too long because I thought she deserved dignity. But dignity without support is just isolation." I pulled out more papers. Here's the power of attorney I had to get when she could no longer manage her own affairs legally. Here's the healthcare directive I helped her complete while she still had capacity to make those decisions. Here's the application for Medicaid planning I've been working on because her savings won't last forever at this rate. Tommy's hands were shaking as he held the papers. Why didn't you tell us it was this bad? I did tell you. You called me dramatic. I opened the third box. These are incident reports. Every time something concerning happened that I documented for her doctors and for legal protection. I pulled out a bound notebook. October 2019, found Mom wandering outside at midnight in her nightgown. She thought she needed to go to work. She retired 20 years ago. November 2019, discovered she hadn't been eating regularly because she'd forgotten she needed to cook. Her weight had dropped 15 pounds. I started meal prepping for her weekly. January 2020, she left the stove on and nearly started a fire. I installed automatic shut-off devices. March 2020, pandemic hit. Mom couldn't understand why she couldn't go out. She tried to leave the house multiple times. I had to start staying overnight several times a week. I kept pulling out entries, my voice steady, clinical. May 2020, she didn't recognize me for 2 hours. Called me by her sister's name. July 2020, found her trying to drive to the grocery store. She hasn't had a valid license in 3 years. I had to hide her car keys and disable her car. September 2020, she called 911 because she thought there were intruders. It was the home health aide I'd hired to give me a break. She didn't remember agreeing to the aid. Jessica had tears running down her face. Michael looked devastated. Linda had gone completely white. Tommy stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to everyone. Last month, I continued, she asked me who I was. Her own daughter. She knew I was familiar, knew she should recognize me, but couldn't place me. That lasted for 3 hours. Do you know what that feels like? To have your own mother look at you like a stranger? Susan wiped her eyes. Margaret, I had no idea. Nobody did. Because I protected you from it. I thought I was doing the right thing, honoring Mom's wishes, keeping her dignity intact, not burdening the family. But what I actually did was enable your denial. I let you believe everything was fine because it was easier than forcing you to face reality. I pulled out the final stack of papers. These are my personal bank statements. The money I've spent on Mom's care over the past 5 years. Out-of-pocket medical expenses insurance didn't cover. Home modifications to make her house safer. Private care aids. Emergency repairs. Groceries and supplies. Transportation costs since I'm driving to West Hartford almost daily. I handed the summary page to Tommy. The total is $180,000. My retirement savings are nearly depleted. I can't afford that European river cruise. I can't afford much of anything anymore except keeping Mom safe. The room was dead silent. Tommy turned from the window, his face streaked with tears. Why didn't you ask for help? Why didn't you tell us how bad it was? I did ask. Repeatedly. You weren't listening. And now we're at a crisis point. Mom can't live alone anymore. The home health aides are refusing to work with her because her behavior has become too unpredictable. She needs memory care, professional 24/7 supervision. That costs $8,000 to $12,000 per month. Her savings will cover maybe 18 months. Then we need a plan. Linda found her voice, small and broken. What kind of plan? Medicaid planning. Possibly selling her house to cover costs. Deciding which memory care facility has space and can accommodate her needs. Legal arrangements for when she's no longer capable of any decisions. End-of-life planning. All the things I've been trying to discuss with you for the past year that you've dismissed as me being dramatic. I closed the boxes. So no, I'm not being dramatic. I'm being realistic about a situation I've been managing alone while you've all been living your lives. And I can't do it alone anymore. I won't do it alone anymore. Mom needs professional care that I can't provide. And I need my siblings to step up and help make decisions and share the financial and emotional burden. The silence stretched out. Then Tommy sat back down heavily. Show me the memory care options. Show me everything. I need to see all of it. Me too, Linda said quietly. I need to understand what's happening. For the next 3 hours, we went through everything. The medical records, the incident reports, the financial situation, the care options. Tommy made calls to Mom's doctors to verify information. Linda researched memory care facilities online. Frank, who worked in finance, started building a budget and long-term financial plan. Susan coordinated a schedule for visiting Mom and assessing her needs in person. Jessica and Michael offered to help with physical tasks like cleaning out Mom's house and managing her belongings. By the time we finished, it was nearly midnight. The Christmas dinner dishes sat cold and forgotten. But we had a plan. A real plan. Tommy spoke first, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Margaret. I should have paid attention. I should have seen what you were carrying. I failed you and I failed Mom. Linda was crying openly now. I called you dramatic. God, Margaret, you've been drowning and I called you dramatic. I'll never forgive myself for that. I don't need your self-flagellation, I said, exhausted. I need your help. Starting now. We have decisions to make and they can't wait. Over the next week, we toured 3 memory care facilities together. Tommy and Linda were shocked by how much Mom had declined when they saw her in person. She didn't recognize Linda at all and called Tommy by their father's name. We settled on a facility in West Hartford, close enough for frequent visits. The cost was $9,500 per month. We divided the financial responsibility 3 ways. Tommy took the largest share since he earned the most. Linda took the second. I took the smallest since I'd already depleted my savings. Mom moved into memory care in early January 2021. The transition was hard. She was angry and confused, asking why we were abandoning her. But the staff was trained and compassionate, and after a few weeks, she adjusted to the routine even if she couldn't remember where she was or why. Tommy visited twice a week. Linda once a week. I went 3 times a week, still the most frequent but no longer alone in the responsibility. We had family meetings monthly to discuss Mom's care, her finances, and any medical changes. For the first time in 5 years, I could breathe. That Christmas dinner, those 3 boxes of documentation, changed everything. Not just our family dynamic, but my siblings' understanding of what caregiving actually means. Tommy later admitted, I thought caring for Mom meant calling her weekly and visiting on holidays. I had no idea it was a full-time job. I was willfully ignorant. Linda said, I didn't want to see her declining. It was easier to dismiss your concerns than to face that she was disappearing. That was cowardice, and I'm ashamed. Mom lived in memory care for 18 months. Her decline accelerated, as it often does once the person is moved from familiar surroundings. But she was safe, well cared for, and we shared the burden of loving her through it. She passed in June 2022, peacefully in her sleep. At her funeral, Tommy gave a eulogy that mentioned me specifically. Our sister Margaret carried our mother through her final years with grace and strength while we were blind to the struggle. She deserves more gratitude than we can ever express. She showed us what family responsibility really means. After the service, as we gathered for lunch, Jessica pulled me aside. "Aunt Margaret, watching how you handled everything with Grandma changed my view of family. I'm in social work now because of you. I want to help families navigate what you navigated alone." That meant more to me than any apology. 2 years after that Christmas dinner, we gathered again at Tommy's house. This time, there was no crisis hidden beneath the surface. No unsaid truths weighing on the conversation. No denial about difficult realities. We'd been through the fire together and come out changed. Tommy raised his glass. To Margaret, who taught us that being dramatic means telling the truth loudly enough to be heard. And to learning to listen before it's too late, Linda added. We drank to that. To truth-telling and truth-hearing. To evidence that couldn't be dismissed. To the hard work of facing reality instead of hiding from it. I'm 72 now. That Christmas dinner 3 years ago remains one of the most difficult evenings of my life, but also one of the most important. Because those boxes of documentation did more than prove I wasn't being dramatic. They proved that sometimes you have to make people uncomfortable to make them understand. That gentle hints and subtle mentions don't work with people who don't want to hear. That evidence, presented calmly and comprehensively, can break through denial in ways that emotional appeals never can. I learned that being called dramatic usually means you're telling a truth someone doesn't want to acknowledge. That documentation isn't paranoia, it's protection. That asking for help without proof of need often fails, but showing proof of need forces response. And I learned that family can fail you for years and still find their way back if you refuse to let them hide from reality anymore. Before we finish, I need 3 things from you. First, hit that like button if this story resonated with you in any way. Second, share this with someone who's been the responsible one in their family, the one carrying burdens alone. Third, comment below and tell me, have you ever had to document a situation to be believed? Have you been called dramatic for telling the truth? What happened when you finally showed proof? I read every single comment because your stories matter. Your truth matters. Remember, you're not dramatic for speaking truth. You're brave. And if they won't listen to your words, sometimes you have to show them evidence they can't deny. Document what you're experiencing. Protect yourself. And know that demanding help isn't selfish, it's survival. My name is Margaret Chen, I'm 72 years old, and that Christmas dinner taught me that the most powerful response to being called dramatic is calm, comprehensive documentation. Not defensiveness, not explanations, not emotional appeals. Just evidence. Clear, organized, undeniable evidence. Your reality deserves to be seen. Don't let anyone dismiss it. And if they try, show them exactly what they've been refusing to see.